Thank you so much for everything.
Welcome everyone. So today we will talk about your questions on research specifically related to USMLE and how research can help you match. And we do have Dr. Shreya and myself will be answering your questions. And Arti from our team is also there to give you some links or attend to other questions. You can ask questions in the chat. We'll get to that. But hopefully, we'll be able to get to all your questions. So, Shreya, why don't you introduce yourself and then, we'll go from there.
Yes. Thank you, Pavan. Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Shreya Introduction. I am a dermatologist practicing in India, and I am also the founder and CEO of the Good Research Project. And I teach medical students and graduates and even postgraduates about research and publication. Not They are just not limited to India, but also all the international students that I'm getting these days. So yes, that's in brief about me.
Thank you, Shreya. And yes, so Sarthi has been collaborating with the Good Research Project for over 3 months now, and we've had a very successful set of students. I think we have run several batches. So anyone who wants to know more about this, Arti, maybe you can post the link about the upcoming projects that we have here. So in the chat, if you can post. So Shreya, let's get started. And I have a few questions that students always ask us. So let's first start with what are the types of research?
Yes. But before that, I would just like to give a brief introduction about what is a research.
Okay.
When I was a medical student, I thought that when I am going to do a research, I will be coming up with a new discovery, a new drug, or a new treatment plan for some disease. But research is not actually that. Research is basically a detailed and careful study of something to find out more information about that thing. Okay, so it is not just limited to finding out a new drug or a new treatment plan. That is also a part of research, but there are many different types of research. For example, I can say that few are observational studies and few are experimental studies. Okay, so in observational studies, you observe. Okay, you are not going to do any experiment like a new drug or a new investigation on a patient or someone. So observational studies have many things in them, like the epidemiological study where you collect data about any disease. For example, these days in India, there is a high prevalence of malaria, so or the dengue. So how do we get to know information, that what is the prevalence rate and what is the incidence rate? So for all these things, the study that is done is an epidemiological study to collect the data. So even this is a type of research, and even this is something which can be, uh, you know, um studied in detail and even published. The second part is the experimental research which is done, which is wherein the new drugs or molecules are they are found in labs, and there is a translational research where these are experimented on animals and everything. And finally, the clinical research where these new molecules or maybe the new investigations are experimented in humans and in patients. So in general, these are, many different types of research which can be done in medical science. But, the opportunities are different everywhere, and it totally depends on student, what interests them, and where they want to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. So the next question we get is, what are the various types of publications? So there is research and then there are publications.
Yes, so research can be of different types. As I said, there can be observational studies, which includes cross-sectional studies, epidemiological studies, case control studies, cohort studies, and different types of studies. And then there are experimental studies, which has randomized controlled trials on patients. So depending on the type of study, you have to write an article. Okay, so the article can be of different types. It can be, original articles, which has different types again. For example, cross-sectional studies are there, case control or cohort studies. Okay, and then there is a review article, which is basically a review of the existing literature, which can be easily found on the internet. Okay, then there are many more study designs which can be published, and these are case reports and case series. Case report deals with a single case which has very unique clinical features, or a different kind of treatment was given to the patient, which resulted in good outcome or maybe adverse effects which were not known earlier. And then there is a case series, which is a collection of three or more similar type of cases, which is again very unique to the literature and not known previously. So again, anything which is there in the textbooks, in the literature, is not, stands, it does not stand a very high value to be published. Something which is unique can get published, because after all, the aim of research is to, bring in new things into the literature. All right. Other than this, there is something known as a viewpoint or a letter to editor. These are the things, where you express your views and you maybe think and write about what can be the implications of something in future. Okay, so even this is a kind of a very short article, something like in 500 words, which can be published. Then many journals also have things like, you know, um, a photography or a clinical image. Like in dermatology, if there is a very unique clinical image or a very unique, histopathological finding, you can definitely get it published. Then there is something known as the radiographic findings, which can be there, or some unique findings that you find in ECG of a patient or a chest X-ray. Even these things can be published as a solo article. um, I think, yes. Then few journals also have things like the resident section and something like that. So there are many different ways in which you can, get published. It is not necessary to only publish systematic analysis, meta-analysis, because I do get students who continuously ask me, how can we publish, meta-analysis? And really, they are really beginners and they have no idea about it. So I really recommend students to start learning from the basics and then go to the top.
Okay, so let's continue and also talk about what is meta-analysis, what is systematic analysis, just for completion.
Yes. So meta-analysis and systematic analysis are basically analysis of the pre-existing, studies which are there. Suppose there are randomized control trials on, let's say, correlation of obesity and hypertension. Okay, so over the years, there might be 100 or 200 papers on that in the literature. Some might be case reports, some might be original articles, randomized control trials, and so on. So in these type of, meta-analysis or systematic analysis, you firstly download all the data that is available, select a criteria for inclusion of these studies, and then you scrutinize these studies and try to come up with interesting findings. So these can be the new findings or a change in trend that is observed over the years.
Hmm.
So yes. So that is why this is the most difficult type of study, because you need to have a knowledge already of these topics to find out what is new in them.
Yeah, thank you. One of the other questions we get is we want to present in a conference. So
Yes.
what can students present at a conference?
Yes, so it totally depends on conference. Firstly, what are their requirements? There can be multiple things. Some conferences ask for case reports and poster presentation and paper presentation. So poster presentation can again be of two types. One is something which is a static poster. That is, you have to make a poster and it will be just displayed. You don't have to speak orally or explain orally until someone or maybe the judges ask you. Okay. And another type is oral presentation. Again, oral presentation can be a case report or a research study. Okay. So in just to explain it in simple words, the type of presentations that you can give in a conference is a poster presentation or a paper presentation. And this can be either a static thing, which you do not have to explain, or an oral presentation. Okay, and most of these conferences, they first ask you to send them an abstract. Abstract is basically, it can be structured or unstructured depending on the type of your study. Unstructured abstract is basically a summary of your study, maybe the case report or the original article, in a single paragraph in 250 words. Whereas in structured abstract, you are given some pre-headings, subheadings, and you have to explain your entire research under those headings only. For example, in case report, the headings are introduction, case report, and the discussion. In an original article, the subheadings are introduction, aims, methodology, results, and discussion. Okay, so in brief, any research that you do can be presented in a conference as well as it can be published.
Yeah, thank you. Now, other obvious question which we get is, why does it take this long for an article to be published, and what is the average time frame that we can expect for publication?
Yes. So what happens is that when you submit an article to the journal, the article, to make sure that the study is not fake, there are some reviewers who are really highly intelligent and placed and at a very higher level. They go through your article, they study it, they check the references, and they try to understand what your study design is, and if the references that you are using are they correct or not, and is the study legitimate, is it adding something new to the literature. And because this process is actually known as peer review. Okay. And this peer review takes time because, if there are 30 to 50 references, they have to go and check each and every single reference to see if you are putting something right in that study or not. Okay. So this process usually takes time, and it again varies from journal to journal. And this is the most time consuming thing when after you submit your article to the journal. Again, so once you submit, they will write to you that there are few corrections, and you have to make those corrections or answer their queries. And this article again undergoes second peer review by the same reviewers. Okay, so this process is something which takes a lot of time, and that is the main reason for the delay in publication. Okay, so again, even after answering these queries, there is a possibility, let's say 10-20%, that the article might still get rejected because the reviewers or the editors, they feel that no, it is not worth publishing in our journal. Okay, this also depends on the impact factor of the journal again. So when you submit an article, it goes through various stages. The first is the editorial review. The editors checks if the article is something which is unique and worth publishing in their journal. Then it goes to the technical review where, the technical team checks aspects like grammar and plagiarism and everything. After that, it goes to the peer review. This process can take somewhere between 2 to 4 months or maybe sometimes 6 months also. The first peer review is completed, then the authors have to answer the queries, then there is a second or maybe sometimes even third peer review process. After the article is, the reviewers feel that no, the article is good to go for publication, they will give an intimation to the editor of the journal that yes, it can be, now published. So after this, the editor gives it approval, and then there is another stage of technical editing where your article is edited as per the journal's guidelines and framework, and the tables are placed properly and everything. So this is a very long process, and it takes really a lot of time. I would say the average time you should think is, let's say, 6 months to 8 months for publication. okay, without any rejection in a single journal. So it's a very long process and you need to have patience if you feel that your article is good enough.
Okay. What if my articles are being rejected multiple times at various journals? So what are my options?
Okay, so firstly, there are thousands of journals out there. So you have to keep trying, is what I would say. I will just give you an example. There was a very good research study that I did. It was rejected by, many journals which were good, but ultimately I kept on doing it. And after 2 years, it was published in a journal which was placed at a number one position. And the journals who rejected it were those who were placed at had a lower impact factor. So my first thing is have patience and do not give up hope. There are several journals out there. Mostly, everyone tries to get their research published in a PubMed index journal only. Okay, and these journals have really strict criterias for scrutinizing any article. If you feel that your article is getting rejected repeatedly, you can go with journals having other indexations, right? Like Scopus, Embase, DOAJ, Index Copernicus. There are many. These are all legitimate journals only, and you can definitely get it published in them as well.
Okay. Thank you. So before we move on, there are other questions that we got, and I thought I'll clarify some of these. So what we are calling the 10 myths of research. So let me go over some of the misconceptions that students have as part of their USMLE journey, and I'll quickly go over, then probably we'll start taking questions. So before I go on, just to understand all of you that the overall profile is important for USMLE, whether it's your scores, your graduation, gaps, attempts, and research. So important thing to understand is everything put together decides your match. So the first myth that we hear is research is only important for university programs. That's not accurate. Even the community programs look for research, because if you look at the ACGME core competencies, applying the knowledge of study design and statistical methods for appraisal of the clinical studies, as Shreya said, is part of it. So research is important for both community programs and university programs. That's the first part. Second, we get a lot of students saying that I'm applying for specialty X or Y and research is not important. So research is not needed for only certain specialties. Research is important for all specialties. Now the importance may vary, So neurology may be looking for more research, pathology may be looking for more research, family medicine may be slightly less research, but it does not mean that it is not important. And the reasons are manifold. As all of us know, step one has gone pass fail. There used to be a CS exam before COVID, that has gone away. So programs are looking for more and more criteria, more and more measures to assess the IMGs. And that's why research has become important. And as you know, the ERAS CV is changing this year onward. So you are limited to only 10 total experiences, whether it is work experience, research experience, USCE, volunteering. So they want to look at a very well-formed and well-rounded personality from an applicant, and therefore importance of research has increased. The other thing students don't understand is even home country research counts. They think home country research does not count. So especially say if you have ICMR or any other funding, these research publications do count. Although of course, as Shreya mentioned, the US based PubMed index journal or some of those are more valuable, but it doesn't mean that the home country research does not count. The fourth and important point is people think that only if the research is published is counted. That is not correct. If you look at the ERAS CV and the sections, even if you have submitted the research, that can still count, because as Shreya mentioned, publication takes 6 to 8 months. So you cannot expect to publish in 2 months or 3 months. So you have to give it enough time. Therefore, IRAS has a separate section where you can say this has been submitted, and of course, it does count. The fifth misconception that students have is I need to be the first author or the second author, and everything has no value. Co-authors are not really counted in research, and that's not true. Research projects have very different scopes, so there may be more scope and more work. So obviously, there are going to be students on other applicants who may not get the first authorship or the second authorship. So it does not mean that they are not valuable or it will not be counted as research. The idea is you have to know about the research project and be able to discuss it during the interview. You cannot just say, my role was only to write the introduction and therefore I don't know anything else about it. So that's not the way to do it. But yes, the sequence, while the first author is more important, so this, yes, the sequence matters, but it does not mean that if you are fourth or fifth author, it doesn't count. The sixth misconception is totally reverse. I cannot match without research, and that is also not true. Depending on the profile, there are always students, and we have, every year 300 to 400 students we help in match. Students can match without research, but there is a qualification. If you're a recent graduate with 260s and 3 or 4 USCEs, you will definitely match. You can match without research. It will depend on the type of program. You'll probably match in a community program without research, but yes, matching without research is possible. It just depends on your profile. If you have an older biology, if you have gaps, if you have low scores, research becomes more important for you. The seventh myth, and I spoke about this, is if my name is there on publication, that is enough. That means if I get 10 publications, I am good to go. That is also not correct. Name in publication is, of course, because you have worked. You have earned your right to be on that research, but does not mean that you don't need to know anything about it. During the interview in USMLE residency match, anything and everything on your CV is a fair game for questions. So programs will expect and they will ask you questions about research. And if you have more questions about how we prepare for the interviews, Aarti can send you some links. But there are about 70 to 80 questions in a residency interview. Research is part of that. So just getting your name on publications is not enough. The eighth kind of myth is online research does not count. So understand there are various types of research, even in terms of how you do it. So yes, if you have a full-time research position, say on a J1 at a Cleveland clinic or a Mayo clinic, that's a full-time job and it has more value. But there are other students who may be working in their home countries, who may be even studying. So they have to go for online research. It does not mean that the online research does not count. The channels are different. The way possibly you interact with your team is different, but online research also counts. The idea is what is the outcome and how much time you have devoted to it, what has been your contribution. So yes, on-site research, if you get it on J1, probably will matter more, but it doesn't mean that the online research does not count. Ninth, as Shreya has already mentioned, all research published anywhere is equal. This is a myth. So this is obviously not true, right? PubMed index journals and some of the other indices, and with their impact factor, so journals have the impact factor, there is a difference. So if you publish in Blood or JAMA and all these high impact level journals, it is absolutely much more impactful. But again, it does not matter, or it does not mean that, like she said, there are thousands of journals. It doesn't mean that you cannot get published anywhere. Remember, you're not a PhD student. You are a med student who's trying to get into residency. So not many of you are going to get into JAMA or blood or something like this. Then the next is all type of research publications is same, which is obviously not true. There is, as she said, there can be manuscript, there can be case report, there can be posters, abstracts. So all of them have different hierarchy. Manuscript is a full-fledged paper, and that obviously shows that you've done a lot of work and it is complete. So that will have a higher value compared to others. But again, depending on the time, depending on your resources, depending on the data, you could go for others as well. So these were 10 kind of myths or 10 points that I wanted to make sure we all understood before we start into research. So with that, let me open up for questions and see what questions are we getting. So now, if you have questions, you can put it in the chat or, the Q&A box and we'll take it. So Shreya, the first question is from Sejal Thakur. How to start with research from basics? And maybe you can also talk about the course that you run. So maybe that will help students understand how to start from research from basics.
Yes. So, along with USMLESarthi, we have started a rapid affordable research program. There is a course A, which is Introduction to Research and Publication. And I have created it in such a way that it addresses the ground reality of research and publication. So that is something which you can take up to understand the basics of it. And after that, I have a course on the online research which we were talking about. So that is something which is designed for beginners, wherein I teach each and everything, right from how did I come up with the topic of that research, how I explain you the process of data collection and your task as well for each and every student, and then how the statistical analysis is done by one of our team members, and then how to write the article, the original article. Okay. And I teach you that in such a way that, there are some subheadings that I give to all the students. And based on that, you can even write any of the other research study as well. Okay, so it is not just helpful for that study, but also for any other study that you do later in your life. So I think for a beginner, this is something which is very basic and it can be easily done by by anyone who has maybe completed at least a second year of their MBBS curriculum.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, if you have anyone on research or anything? Okay, so next question is from Archana. What if the research study is not very unique?
Okay, so I really don't understand. What do you mean by not very unique? So basically, when I decide and I design any topic, I do definitely do a literature review before that to see if a similar or the exactly same study has been published or not. Similar studies will be there, but same studies is very, very less likely. For example, we were recently doing a study on mortality trends, okay, in different neoplasms. Okay, so, and actually in many other different diseases, let's say cardiomyopathy, for example. Cardiomyopathy, when I took that topic, it dealt with all the different types of cardiomyopathies that are there, hypertrophic, restrictive, and if there are any more. But there were studies published previously which were only, limited to only restrictive cardiomyopathy or only hypertrophic, or were limited to, let's say, the year 2010 only. So my study was unique because it dealt with all the different types of cardiomyopathy, as well as all the different regions of USA, as well as all the races. And it was till the year 2020. So that is what made my study unique. Okay.
Thank you.
So I think this answers the question.
Yes, it does. And Aarti, students are asking for a link to join the research program. So if you can post the link again. Thank you. I'll take the next question. How to apply for on-site research positions at Mayo, Cleveland Clinic, and others. So most of these institutes do have PIs that offer these positions. So one of the way would be to look at individual websites and apply. Now we do have classes as part of our match programs where we tell you exactly how to go about it, what to write in the email to get these full-time positions. So, but otherwise, if you're trying on your own, you'll have to individually go on the websites and apply. Okay, let me take the next question from Sunena. I'm a fresh graduate, no experience in research, recently started preparing for USMLE journey, mainly concerned about gap between graduation and step one. So I'll take it. So gap between graduation and step one, as an MBBS, you really have to have clinical experiences, right? So that is a big thing. So don't have these gaps. Can research be a good way of explaining it? Not really. Online research cannot be a good way to explain your gap between MBBS and step one studies. I think you really need clinical experiences. Online research can only complement what you're doing. So if you've started the preparation for step one, avoid the gaps. So next question, I am an IMG, can I publish my research from India? I think you already answered it, but can you explain it more?
Yes, definitely. Any student from anywhere, they can do a research and publish a research.
Okay. Next question comes from Osama. If you published your research in one journal and then you did some improvements on it, can you publish it on another journal?
So the direct answer to this question is no, because one research can be published only in one journal. If you try to publish it in another journal, even with minor corrections, it will show up in the plagiarism software and even during the literature review. So that is something which you cannot do. You cannot even do a research and break it into two parts and submit it in different journals. Even that is something which is not allowed. Okay, and you definitely sign a contract or an agreement with them stating that you have not submitted this research study earlier anywhere and it is not into consideration for publication. So please avoid doing that.
Yeah. I'll take the next one, which says, how can you do virtual research assistant jobs internationally? So the virtual RA jobs are very hard to do, but it all depends on the institution and your primary investigator, principal investigator. So if they are okay with it, you can do it, but otherwise most universities do not offer virtual RA-ships. To get your guidance on how to apply for on-site research, what is the way? I mean through USMLESarthi. So, like I said, we do have our courses. These are part of the match courses. So when you are ready for it, if you enroll in any of our match courses, we can guide you, because it is a on-site research, and a full-time research is an integral part. Some students take it for your match. So once you're ready, we will be definitely able to enroll you in our match. So if you are applying for match next season, you can definitely do it. Other questions? Anyone else? Let's see if there are more questions. Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone. And if you are interested in Shreya's research course, which has been very successful, the link is on our website. Aarti has posted those links. But that was all for today. Thank you all, and thank you, Shreya. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Pawan.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, all of you. Thanks.